Nous allons maintenant remettre le prix Jeunesse. Ce prix reconnaît une personne en début de carrière, de moins de 35 ans, qui a élaboré une proposition de politique novatrice et convaincante, fondée sur des données probantes et qui devrait faire une différence positive dans nos vies. So let's watch a little video about the Youth Award.
From grassroots to leaders at all sectors, and from across the country, the Canadian Science Policy Centre is pleased to recognize the excellence and celebrate every year champions who have taken bold actions and have impacted in all areas of science and innovation policy.
Cette année, le CPSC présente le prix Jeunesse, 3 prix du pionnier en politique scientifique et en politique d'innovation, et le prix pour l'ensemble des réalisations de la politique scientifique.
The CSPC Youth Award recognizes an individual under the age of 35 who proposes an innovative and evidence-based policy to make a positive difference to all Canadians. The applicants can be from any background, any discipline, and with any professional expertise.
Joignez-vous à nous pour passer en revue nos précédents lauréats du prix Jeunesse.
Through that, we can prevent up to 22,000 deaths in Canada a year. That is how many Canadians die every year from adverse drug reactions.
And I think if I want you to take anything away from this talk, I think it's that I really wrote this policy proposal because I believe that cooking and heating should be something that sustains us.
My proposal is a sign of the collective endurance of Indigenous peoples and our refusal to be altogether defined by victimization.
Policy changes when we facilitate dialogue and refuse to accept the status quo. So ask questions and demand better. Thank you.
Canada is the 6th largest seafood exporter in the world, sending over 2/3 of domestically caught seafood into foreign markets.
I'm so thrilled to be the recipient of the Canadian Science Policy Centre's Youth Policy Award this year.
There are critical gaps in caring for the homeless, but what my policy aims to do is take both a policy and education-oriented approach to improve healthcare.
Et pour présenter le prix CSPC Jeunesse de cette année, veuillez accueillir, please welcome Sandra Noël, the member of the Youth Award Selection Committee and co-chair of the very first Youth Award Committee back in 2013.
It's so wonderful to see so many friends from all of the years through CSPC in the room here tonight. And as we celebrate 15 years looking back, I'm also so proud to be part of CSPC looking to the future with this award, looking at bringing forward young people who are passionate about evidence-based science policy. Amis passionnés de sciences et de politique, je vous invite de célébrer avec nous la 8e année de prix Jeunesse CSPC. We've designed this award to help young Canadians from all walks of life to see themselves as important contributors to finding evidence-based solutions to the complex problems that we face as a society. Ce prix reconnaît une jeune personne de moins de 35 ans qui a élaboré une proposition de politique novatrice et convaincante, fondée sur des données probantes et qui devrait faire une différence positive pour les Canadiens. In our rapidly changing world, the importance of science and policy working hand in hand cannot be overstated. It is through the innovative ideas and determination of our young leaders that we can navigate these complex challenges of our time. The passion of the young people, as you've seen, who apply to the CSPC Youth Award is palpable and it's inspiring. Ce prix ne serait pas possible sans l'engagement et le dévouement de nos incroyables bénévoles. On behalf of the Award Selection Committee, I would like to particularly thank, I'll ask folks to stand as I say your name, Miriam Taheri, Hannah Pavic, Shogo Adiola, and Wendy Zhu. The award also relies on the dedication of our selection committee, and it was a true honor to serve alongside Selua Benkanouya des Fonds de Solidarité FTQ, Paul Dufour from the University of Ottawa, John Hepburn from MyTax, Jessica Kolokpanek from the University of Alberta, who's a former winner of the award, as you can see, and Mathieu Mondou du Comité consultatif sur les changements climatiques du Québec, and Alex Young-Soo Lee, who was the 2022 Youth Award winner. So thanks so much, everybody. Ce soir, on remet ce prix à une jeune personne remarquable, Taylor Reed Sutherland. A Master of Marine Management candidate at Dalhousie University, she proposed integrating depth distribution data into Canadian shark conservation policy to address the critical issue of declining shark populations in Canada and worldwide. Sa proposition reconnaît de graves menaces auxquelles sont confrontés des requins en raison de taux d'exploitation élevés, de changements climatiques et de prises accessoires, entraînant leur déclin et leur mise en danger. The proposal's novelty lies in its innovative approach to address the limitations of the single-species approach to fisheries management and recommends an innovative approach integrating previously understudied vertical distribution data. C'est un grand honneur de remettre la prix jeunesse à Taylor Reed Sutherland en reconnaissance de ses idées et son engagement envers la politique scientifique. Please join me in welcoming Taylor Reed Sutherland to the stage to accept her CSPC award.
Thank you so much. Please join me in recognizing that the research I do, as well as my master's candidacy at Dalhousie University, occur in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the Treaties of Peace and Friendship, which Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. Moreover, I acknowledge that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched our communities for over 400 years. Tonight, I'm honored to be here as a guest on unceded Anishinaabe Algonquin territory. Firstly, I would like to extend my most sincere congratulations to the other award recipients tonight. I would also like to offer my gratitude and appreciation to the organizers of this event. I applaud you for the hard work that has undoubtedly gone into coordinating such a wonderful few days and successful conference. Moreover, I'd like to warmly and wholeheartedly thank the Canadian Science Policy Centre team for ensuring that I'm able to share this evening with all of you. I cannot put into words the gratitude that I feel being here tonight and how excited I am to be participating this week. I'd be remiss if I did not take this opportunity to thank Dr. Heather Bowlby for her guidance, supervision, and support throughout my ongoing graduate research, which has shaped my policy proposal for this competition. She's been a mentor, a role model, and an endless encouragement as I undertake one of the most significant projects of my early career. My final thank you goes to my family, friends, and loved ones who support me during every step of my academic journey. To my parents who've sacrificed so much for my success. To my sister who never ceases to make me laugh and acknowledge even the smallest of my accomplishments. And to my roommate and one of my best friends who always keeps me humble. Thank you for all that you do every single day. Which brings me now to my policy proposal, titled Integrating Depth Distribution Data into Canadian Shark Conservation Policy. While popular culture and fear-mongering media often portray sharks as ferocious hunters who intentionally attack humans, I'm interested in the critical roles they play in maintaining marine ecosystem function and the health of global oceans. These animals have remained among the most severely threatened marine species for a number of years. They're relatively unproductive, which means they do not produce enough young at a high enough frequency to keep up with the overexploitation of their populations across the globe. Fisheries, bycatch, and climate change are leading to pressures on sharks everywhere that can potentially result in extinction events, sounding an international ocean alarm bell. Here in Canada, shark management falls exclusively under federal jurisdiction. The government has employed a myriad of legislative tools that include treaty obligations under the Northeastern Atlantic Fisheries Organization and International Commission for the Conservation of Atlantic Tuna, as well as national and regional mandates like the Fisheries Act and both Atlantic and Pacific fisheries regulations. While our nation has banned finning in 1994, the import and export of shark in 2019, and implemented heavy restrictions on pelagic shark landings, several shark species found in Atlantic Canada still remain listed by the Committee on the Status of Endangered Wildlife in Canada and the Species at Risk Act. In cases like the poor beagle shark, some species have been listed for nearly as long as I have been alive. Existing literature regarding the species distributions of sharks around the world predominantly focuses on the horizontal axis, or where and how sharks are moving across the surface of the Earth. The recent advent of satellite technology, however, has facilitated a new frontier of marine behavioral ecology along the vertical plane, or in the ways that different sharks occupy the water column and exhibit various diving behaviors. To this end, I argue that a multi-axial understanding of their movement patterns and behaviors may inform contemporary management options that reduce shark mortality, first by identifying and managing for usable seasonal habitat based on temperature and depth throughout time, and also by reducing the initial likelihood of their capture. From short-term fisheries closures, even only at specific depths, to precise gear restrictions, it's my belief that we need to act now to protect and conserve sharks, and by extension, marine ecosystems on the whole, while still allowing fishers and harvesters access to ocean resources. Thank you so very much to the esteemed Canadian Science Policy Centre Award Selection Committee for the time and consideration you've given, and for bestowing me with this prestigious award. Please enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.
The Trailblazer Award recognizes individuals who have demonstrated novelty, creativity, and impact through leadership, vision, courage, and commitment to the overall advancement of the science of the innovation policy ecosystem.
Et je crois que nous avons une petite vidéo pour expliquer ce prix.
The CSPC Trailblazer Award recognizes individuals who have demonstrated novelty, creativity, and impact through leadership, vision, courage, and commitment to the overall advancement of science and innovation policy ecosystem.
Joignez-vous à nous pour passer en revue nos précédents lauréats des prix du pionnier.
Thank you. Merci. C'est avec grande humilité que j'accepte cette reconnaissance. À la fois un honneur et un privilège pour moi d'être reconnu par la communauté des politiques scientifiques canadiennes.
I remain convinced that advancement in science and policy innovation are cornerstone to closing the health equity gap along racial lines.
Merci beaucoup. C'est un grand honneur pour moi d'être reconnu ainsi par le CSPC, une association canadienne incontournable.
You know, they say it takes a village, and I'd say it takes a science innovation ecosystem.
I am deeply honored and humbled to have been selected as the first recipient of the CSPC Trailblazer Award in Science Policy in the new Science for Policy category.
But this award is very meaningful to me because it really recognizes the invisible and usually uncredited work that I and others have done in parallel with having a career as an academic research scientist.
Est-ce que le micro fonctionne? Oh my God. Et nous voudrions inviter Dr. Elisha Main, Associate Vice President of Knowledge Mobilization and Innovation at Simon Fraser University, recipient of the first Innovation Policy Award and member of the Trailblazer Award Selection Committee, to announce the winner. This yes. Oh yeah, she's here. Welcome. Come on in.
Good evening, everyone. What a pleasure to be here this evening. Champions of innovation all around the room, both champions of science innovation and social innovation, as we discussed today. Thank you for gathering here today to celebrate some remarkable individuals who are policy trailblazers and who are contributing greatly to our innovation ecosystems in Canada and internationally. Thank you in particular to our elected officials who have joined us this evening. We really appreciate your advocacy and your service to the country. The Canadian Science Policy Trailblazer Award in Innovation Policy recognizes outstanding individuals who make significant contributions to innovation policy and champion and inspire the policy community in Canada. Recipients represent the highest caliber of contributions to innovation policy, have often given of themselves for decades to champion initiatives which benefit our innovation ecosystem and have made a great impact on the shaping of innovation policy. I had the tremendous honor of being the recipient of this award last year. It was heartwarming to be recognized by my colleagues here in this community. And in paying it forward, I was very pleased to be chosen to be on the selection committee for this year's Trailblazer Award for Innovation Policy and for all of the different policy awards, and to work with such an amazing group of individuals to select the award recipients. First, let me introduce you to the group that are here on the award, on the screens here on either side of you tonight. Thank you. A round of applause for the committee themselves. I want to thank them for the very hard work that we had this year. It was a very difficult task. There was amazing applicants. And the winner of the Innovation Policy Trailblazer Award was someone who really amazed the committee with some of her contributions. She is an esteemed scholar and renowned expert in innovation policy. She's dedicated her career to the study and promotion of innovation in all of its forms as a professor, a researcher, an author, and an advisor on a wide range of committees and decision-making tables. Her work has not only advanced our understanding of innovation, but has also shaped and influenced policy decisions that have made our economy and society better places here today. So let's watch a short clip of the winner, and then we'll ask her to join us on the stage. So first, a short clip about Dr. Catherine Beaudry.
La recherche que je fais, c'est surtout sur des systèmes. Donc, j'aime comprendre comment le système d'innovation, comment le système de sciences et de technologie fonctionne. Donc, l'innovation, c'est un peu l'élément central entre ce qui se fait dans les universités et ce qui va se retrouver sur le marché, dans l'utilité des gens dans leur vie de tous les jours.
La collaboration, dans le fond, c'est le fil conducteur de toutes mes recherches. Il faut former nos ingénieurs à être réceptifs, polyglottes d'une certaine façon, dans le langage de plusieurs disciplines. Et ça inclut aussi les disciplines des sciences humaines, des sciences sociales. Tout porte sur l'impact de la science, de la technologie et de l'innovation dans la société au sens large, mais plus particulièrement au niveau des entreprises. Donc, j'étudie la performance des entreprises. Bon, prenez le Canada, on a une performance assez extraordinaire en matière de sciences et de technologie. On se classe parmi les premiers dans les classements mondiaux, mais que ça ne se traduit pas en performance aussi excellente en matière d'innovation. Donc moi, c'est un peu ce sur quoi je travaille, essayer de comprendre pourquoi, identifier les obstacles à l'innovation, comment les entreprises peuvent les surmonter.
À peine 20 à 30 % des innovations proviennent d'avancées technologiques où on sait vraiment ce qu'on cherche et on trouve. Il y en a d'autres qui viennent, dans le fond, de choses qu'on trouve par hasard. Mais la grande majorité des innovations viennent de nouvelles combinaisons de connaissances qu'on avait déjà, qui sont souvent des connaissances multidisciplinaires. Donc, dans ce dernier cas, la multidisciplinarité, c'est vraiment la clé du succès.
Le soutien gouvernemental à l'innovation a aussi besoin d'être repensé et mieux coordonné pour en optimiser les impacts socio-économiques et environnementaux. L'ampleur de la collaboration nécessaire est sans précédent. L'union fait la force, j'en suis convaincue, et c'est ainsi que nous faisons avancer la société.
Pleasure that I invite Professor Catherine Beaudry to join us on stage to receive the Innovation Policy Trailblazer Award. This award, Catherine, is a testament to your profound impact on the field of innovation policy and the transformational change that you've inspired.
wow. And those that have been sitting next to me at the table know that I've been scribbling tons of little notes of things that I have forgotten, so apologies if I forget anyone. Merci. Je suis profondément reconnaissante de l'immense honneur que vous me faites en m'octroyant ce prix des pionniers sur les politiques d'innovation. And I will take the liberty to do something that in all the committees that I work with, I'm never allowed to do, which is to switch from French to English, because the translators really hate when we do that. So tonight they're not here, so I feel free.
You can take more than 5 minutes too.
Oh no, I won't keep you from dessert. No, so don't worry. So. Having had the opportunity to work alongside, several of some of the recipients of various prizes over the years, including my very good friend Alicia, who's just there. The spot is quite daunting. So I'm really humbled to join this exceptional community of peers. I feel privileged to be part of this assembly of innovative colleagues who are dedicated to advancing science for the benefit of society. Je ne serais pas ici sans l'enthousiasme et les idées folles et l'inspiration de mes étudiants, de mes multiples collaborateurs qui proviennent de plusieurs disciplines, de tous les secteurs. Donc, ce prix prestigieux, c'est aussi à eux que je le dois. I'm, of course, indebted to the Social Science and Humanities Research Council et les fonds de recherche du Québec, Rémi est pas loin, qui ont soutenu ma recherche pendant toutes ces années. I'd like to thank the CSPC and the award committee that accepted my rather bizarre submission, because I spent days literally watching the little wheel turn next to the submit button, and I could never, for an engineer who couldn't work out on 3 different computers, 3 different moteurs de recherche, how to submit this proposal. Anyway. So there we go. So thank you for having accepted my proposal. Les relations entre la science, la technologie et l'innovation sont un phénomène très complexe, et puis vous en êtes la représentation aujourd'hui. Ça peut pas être étudié seulement à l'aide d'une seule discipline, en utilisant les outils d'une seule discipline. Et la multidisciplinarité qui guide mes recherches, c'est vraiment, et puis qui guide aussi mes interventions, c'est ce qui... dans le fond, qui est un peu ma raison d'être, si vous voulez. Puis je vais juste mentionner quelques disciplines. Par exemple, on a besoin de la géographie pour comprendre comment la proximité physique entre les individus et les ordinateurs, oui, parce qu'on remplace la proximité technologique et la proximité sociale, mais bon, je vais y venir plus tard. Ça favorise la collaboration scientifique, technologique qui mène à l'innovation. On a aussi besoin des sociologues, des mathématiciens avec leur magnifique théorie des graphes pour comprendre la proximité sociale, comment les individus collaborent, interagissent. On ne pourrait pas s'en sortir non plus sans bibliométrie. Je suis sûre que vous avez entendu parler de bibliométrie pour essayer de mesurer la proximité cognitive, pour voir comment on combine les différents pans de la science et de la technologie pour amener des nouvelles innovations. Vous avez entendu, je vous avais dit que c'était 70 à 80% des innovations là, dans la vidéo. On a aussi besoin de connaissances en génie qui sont nécessaires pour comprendre tout le processus de développement de produits qui mène à des innovations de produits aussi. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to celebrate the fact that Polytechnique is 150 years old, so it's a double anniversary. So it's my alma mater, and even though it's an engineering school, this is where I find my place to bridge the gap between science, engineering, and social sciences. We also need, notions of management to identify what are the different obstacles to innovation for firms. Et là, je m'excuse, c'est dans les petites notes que j'ai écrites rapidement. La présence de Mme Kirsty Duncan me rappelle que j'ai oublié de mentionner que mon hobby, c'est les femmes en sciences. Donc, ça ne fait pas partie de mes recherches mainstream, je dirais. Et puis, en vous voyant, je vous ai reconnu. J'ai dit, ah tiens, c'est vrai, il faut que je mette ça sur ma liste. Donc, je vous remercie pour ma participation au comité parlementaire sur la science et la technologie, justement sur les salaires, les différences de salaire entre les hommes et les femmes. Et puis, je ne sais pas si Besma Momani est dans la salle, mais on a un bouquin qui sort à UBC Press. Je suis en train, je promets, j'ai commencé à lire les épreuves, les proofs. I'm halfway through the chapter, so that everyone knows. Et puis moi, ben, tous ces indicateurs-là que je vais chercher de plein de disciplines, je les mets dans mes études économétriques. Et puis là, je m'amuse comme une folle avec des statistiques pour sortir des choses follement amusantes. Mais tout ça, ça ne sert à rien si on ne va pas parler aux gens qui font la politique. So a thorough understanding of the work of the civil servants who put in place the mechanisms to support science, technology, and innovation and growth is also essential. And over the years, I've had the great privilege of working alongside, passionate people of the public sector at SSHRC, Treasury Board Secretariat, Policy Horizons, Council of Canadian Academies, the OECD, l'Institut de la statistique du Québec, Québec Innov, Ville de Montréal, la Fédération des professeurs et professeurs du Québec, Universities Canada, the Canada Research Chairs Committees, and I'll let you into one of my secrets. During these collaborations, talking to different individuals, this is where I get the best ideas. It's interacting, finding solutions to different problems. So I really have no merit because I'm having so much fun doing all that work. So I really owe this award to all of you and all these conversations I've had over the years. So this award is also yours. Donc un énorme merci pour votre confiance. Ça me fait vraiment chaud au cœur. Et j'aimerais dédier ce prix à mon directeur de thèse, Paul David, qui est décédé en janvier dernier, parce qu'il avait une vision des plus uniques de l'intégration de la science, de la technologie et de l'innovation. Donc, Paul, c'est pour toi ce prix. Donc, merci beaucoup et bonne soirée.
Et maintenant, nous allons remettre le prix pionnier Science pour la politique.
And now it's time for the Trailblazer Award for Science for Policy. To introduce this year's winner, please join me in welcoming Dr. Kara Tannenbaum, who is probably a familiar face to many of you. She's not only one of my mentors, who I appreciate very much, but she also recently won the Trailblazer Award. She is currently the Departmental Science Advisor for Health Canada and a professor in the Faculty of Medicine at the Université de Montréal. Dr. Kara Tannenbaum.
And may I say that it really is wonderful to be among friends, as we heard. Berdad, you're such a science policy entrepreneur. I think that's the word that I would give you after celebrating your 15 years, that I bet if it was up to you, you would give everyone here a Science for Policy Award for your past contributions, for your current support and contributions, or what you're going to contribute in the future. Malheureusement, il n'y en a qu'un prix. Alors, on a dû choisir un individu. We had to choose only one exceptional individual whose unwavering commitment to the integration of science into policy has brought about significant positive changes in our society. Now, the Science for Policy Award recognizes an individual who has distinguished themselves via the application and the use of scientific research and knowledge to inform evidence-based decisions for public policy and regulations in all policy areas, including but not limited to health, the environment, national security, education, criminal justice, and others. Our recipient today has a remarkable and illustrious career as a scientist, researcher, and policy advocate. Our winner, Dr. David Hammond is a recognized expert in public health and tobacco control. Dr. Hammond was selected for this award by the committee because his work has had a direct impact on national regulations and international standards for policies on advertising and marketing, health warnings and product labeling, product standards, and public education campaigns. So the entire gamut of science into policy, innovations. Dr. Hammond has dedicated his life to applying scientific evidence to the development of effective public policies, and by this, he has been a catalyst for change, influencing decisions that have truly saved lives, improved public health, and advanced the well-being of countless individuals. The award is a testament to his profound impact on the scientific community and society as a whole. Malheureusement, il n'a pas pu être ici parmi nous aujourd'hui dû à son travail, mais il a pu partager quelques mots avec nous par vidéo.
Hi everyone, my name is Dave Hammond, and I'm sorry I can't be with you in person tonight, but I'm delighted to receive the Trailblazer Award in Science for Policy. An award that recognizes impact on health policy is the highest compliment for my work. For the past 25 years, I've been doing research on tobacco control policy, so how to unwind almost a century of influence from an industry that's been not only highly effective in promoting smoking, but also in undermining both science and policy. Now, I sometimes say that tobacco control is the poster child both for effective health policy and one of our most enduring policy failures. Perhaps no other public policy has saved as many lives, and yet we still have 4 million Canadians who smoke. It remains one of the leading causes of death. And science and evidence has been absolutely critical in demonstrating the need for these policies and also for defending effective policies after they've been implemented. So I've been asked to speak about a few highlights in my career tonight, and 3 experiences stand out. The first highlight was the opportunity to contribute to the world's first public health treaty, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. It set international standards for tobacco control policies that reach billions of people in more than 180 countries that ratified the treaty. Now, I had the opportunity to draft some of the guidelines in areas like health warnings and product standards, and the occasion that sticks out is a 3-minute presentation in Bangkok, Thailand. My son Jack was just born. I had to fly around the world. I was feeling a bit sorry for myself. The air conditioning in the hotel didn't work, so I spent 2 days in my underwear trying to figure out how to convey highly technical concepts of tobacco product science in 180 seconds to representatives from around the world. And as soon as it was done, I remember thinking, well, that was nice. My career just peaked at age 33, and it's all downhill from here. Now, the second experience was maybe more of a career lowlight than a highlight, and that was being deposed by Philip Morris for 14 hours over a 2-day period. And I've served as an expert witness on behalf of governments around the world. These are cases where companies try and strike down public health laws. The Philip Morris deposition was a big case. There was almost $1 billion sought in damages. And one of my colleagues who testifies against the industry had some simple advice. He said, get some sleep, eat a big breakfast, and never back down. Now, it was good advice as it turns out. The deposition started with a nice chat about the weather, and it ended with the lawyer shouting at me for more than an hour, why wouldn't I answer his questions, and I felt like I was in a John Grisham movie. And after the second exhausting day, I took out my son Jack for pizza, who was 6 or 7 at the time. And that day in school, he'd learned about the story of Terry Fox, and he told me about how he ran around the schoolyard to raise money. And I actually started to cry at the pizza place. And it's because I was so exhausted, I was mentally spent. But it was also the day that I knew that this would be the direction that my career would take. Now, the last highlight I'll mention is a handwritten letter I received more than a decade ago. So it's fine to feel very smug about working with governments and testifying in court cases, but really it doesn't mean much unless it changes something. And I had received a letter from a woman in New York named Judy Murray, and she'd read an article in the New York Times about a publication of mine, some research. And she mailed me a picture of her tracheotomy, showing the hole in her throat from a lifetime of smoking in her surgery. And she had a terminal diagnosis, and she said she was one of the few survivors in her support group. And she wrote to thank me for the work that I was doing. And she told me that she had pictures from the health warnings on Canadian cigarette packs on her fridge. Those were the warnings that I was helping to study in my research. and she put the pictures on her fridge for her kids, but she also challenged me to do more. Now, I'm pretty sure that Judy isn't alive anymore, but I keep her picture in my office to remind her why we do the work we do. Now, looking back, tobacco control research was a baptism of fire for my own training. But you know, there's always been a strong consensus about the need and the spirit in the public health community. I now work in other areas of substance use policy that are less equivocal. I work in contentious areas like e-cigarettes and vaping and trying to balance what these products may be able to do for smokers while protecting young people, right at the point where we're about to close the door on tobacco use among Canadian youth. I also look at things like legalization of recreational cannabis. Do we have more people using cannabis because of legalization? Has it reduced the illicit market? How many stores should we have? How have the products changed? These are questions about a broader conversation we're having in Canada about the role of substances. How do we minimize the harm from drugs, both among people that use them and among young people who we're trying to protect? What's the right level of regulation? Science and unbiased evidence will always be important to inform decisions. Just to wrap up, a couple quick thank yous. I was blessed with wonderful mentors, people like Jeff Fong, Roy Cameron at the University of Waterloo, who've always been generous with their ideas and support. I've also been lucky to work with many great non-governmental organizations, NGOs. And I want to take this opportunity to thank one in particular. That's Neil Collishaw, who is retiring this week from 5 decades of work in tobacco control. Neil used to lead tobacco control program at Health Canada. At the time when many cabinet ministers smoked in their office, we had separate smoking sections in airplanes. Neil also led tobacco control at the World Health Organization and has been with Physicians for a Smoke-Free Canada for decades. Now, I had the good fortune of sitting next to Neil at one of the first meetings I attended as a fresh new graduate student. And not long after, Neil said, "Here, you might want to read some of these internal tobacco company documents on their secret science, how they designed and tested cigarettes." Those documents taught me more than any course or textbook. We ended up writing a paper together in the Lancet Medical Journal, and it really helped launch my career. And while Neil's contributions are exceptional, they also typify the type of commitment and important role that many NGOs play. So finally, I want to thank the wonderful people I work with, the staff and students. I keep expecting them to leave for another job where the boss doesn't come in with toothpaste on his face or send kitten videos on YouTube on work time. I'm very lucky to work with such great people. And of course, the best part of my workday is when it ends and I can come home to my kids who've become little health policy advocates of themselves. Last month, my 10-year-old daughter did a presentation on the risks of e-cigarettes, and it included more nuance and balance than some of the national organizations I've been able to work with. And finally, thanks to my partner Jen for being so wonderful, for pretending to be interested in my work stories over many, many years. And thank you again to all of you. I'm sorry again that I can't be with you, but please enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks.
The next award is for the Trailblazer Award. And to introduce this award and to help award it, we have Mehrdad Hariri, and we would also invite the Honourable Greg Fergus to come up to the stage as well to hand out the next award, please. Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you. And if, can you hear me? And if the hall is not quiet, I have to ask Greg to call the order and for this matter. Great. Okay. So not that I have recovered from the excitement earlier, but this is my duty to talk about the next award winner. I'm not going to say much about the next award winner because you all know this individual, but I have to say that the Trailblazer Award for Policy for Science is for those individuals who have made significant contribution to the landscape of science and using their platform in various ways to change this enterprise. The award winner tonight, made significant contribution and in fact, I must say, changed the landscape of science enterprise in this country forever through various means, using her platform. The award winner tonight made contribution and changed the landscape of equity and inclusion of women and minorities into science. used her platform to increase funding for science, reestablish the Office of Science Advisor in Canada. I think she needs no introduction, but most importantly, above all, she established the first committee in the House for science. That's no one else except the Honorable Christy Duncan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kirsty Duncan, and I want you to know I'm absolutely humbled to be before you today as Canada's new minister. It's been a whirlwind of briefings and meetings with the scientific community and stakeholders, and it's only been 3 weeks. As a former scientist, I want you to know, I mean, my life has been the intersection between science and policy. As Minister of Science, I pledge to do everything in my power to build momentum.
Chers amis, je crois que nous avons une excellente occasion de réaliser une vision qui montre le Canada comme un champion de la science et des chercheurs à l'échelle internationale. The CAP will also ensure greater diversity in chair positions. That means more women, Indigenous peoples, visible minorities, and those with disabilities in the sciences. I fulfilled my top mandate commitment by naming an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary scientist, an extraordinary Canadian as our new Chief Science Advisor. Dr. Niemer, would you rise to be recognized?
Science and research will now have a permanent place where issues that are important to the research community, Canadians, and the future of the country can be studied. It's a place where scientists, researchers, and parliamentarians can get to know one another, and where parliamentarians can get a better understanding of science and research. And parliamentarians are going to be able to learn about Canada's research strengths in areas like computer science applications, fuel cells, neurodegeneration, personalized medicine, the list goes on. I wanted scientists, researchers, and students to have a key to the people's house, the House of Commons.
So today in Canada, women earn about getting close to half of the undergraduate science degrees. That's good news. They earn about a quarter of the engineering degrees, so there's some work to do there. And as you move to master's and doctoral level, the numbers decrease further. In Canada, women earn about 33% of the doctoral degrees in science, compared to 49% in the UK and 46% in the US. If we look at the STEM workforce, in 1987, women accounted for about 20% of the STEM workforce. Today it's 22%. I don't think any country can afford to lose half of its talent. I'll speak very personally for a moment, and it's something I don't often do. I loved my job. I loved research and I loved my students. Was I asked at departmental meetings when I planned to get pregnant? Was I paid in the bottom 10th percentile? And when I asked how this could have happened, the answer was, well, you're a woman. I spent 25 years of my life fighting so that young women wouldn't face the challenges I did. I always told my own students, impossible is nothing. Impossible is a dare.
We 3 young women scientists are here, and it gives us a great pleasure to introduce you a champion. A champion who is not only a successful politician, also a great scientist and a great voice for women in science. She inspired me when I met her in CSPC back in 2016, when she strongly stated, impossible is nothing. Impossible is just a dare.
The fact that both our Minister of Science and our Chief Science Advisor are women tells me that doors are opening for women in science in Canada. And to those two women, I say, please hold the door. And I know that behind every woman scientist who is successful, there is a hero who is holding those in power accountable. So for now, let's extend a really warm welcome to our champion, the Honorable Kirsty Duncan, Minister of Science.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for this. I am beyond humbled and touched. I want you to know serving you has been one of the greatest honors of my life. I could not be prouder to come from this wonderful family. And I'd like to recognize each and every one of you because I look around the room and you're not just colleagues and distinguished guests, you're friends and your family. To Mayor Dad and your colleagues, it's been a wonderful night. 15 years. Mayor Dad, that's testament to your work. It's a real celebration of science and policy. And tonight, from the children singing "O Canada" to the grandmother teaching us tonight, and to all these award winners, I am humbled by your stories, and I can't wait to see what comes next and what you do next. Thank you for your gifts. Mayor Dad, thank you for your tireless work in bringing this excellent and inspiring conference to Ottawa each year. And thank you for bringing us all together. Your work matters, and I know we are all grateful for it. To all of you, how many more things could I drop? Now they're taking them off. To all of you, dear friends and colleagues, you are a sight for sore eyes. It's been a tough year, and I have missed you more than you will ever know. Thank you for your important, life-changing research and policy work that you do each and every day on behalf of all Canadians, people, and the planet. Let's continue to highlight the importance and relevance of science and society in our daily lives and build relationships between the research community and politicians. You have some spectacular ones here tonight. Know your members of Parliament, your senators, the House of Commons Science Committee. Make your voices heard. Make your voices heard. And let them be your champions and advocates, because research is a public good that we must all protect. And know that I am always here for you, to serve you and to fight for you. They asked me to talk a little bit about myself tonight. I hope instead it's okay if I talk what's on my mind. No, I'm here to fight for you, because research policy is foundational to civil society. More than ever, the world needs science, and we are a country of discoverers, explorers, inventors, and innovators. Science and research are fundamental building blocks of Canada that provide our best hope for solutions to improving health, addressing the climate emergency, and improving economic growth and growing jobs. Basic science pays dividends. Science and research requires sustained attention, nurture, and support. But our world-class researchers and students are waiting, while peer countries increase funding. The challenges facing graduate students and early career researchers are real. I know them firsthand. My wonderful partner, my Sven, finished his doctorate sleeping on his supervisor's floor because he could not afford rent. I used my own personal funds to pay for my 1918 flu expedition. And when I was teaching at the university, I helped far too many students with rent, food, clothing, housing. It's time to invest in research to build a future driven by knowledge, forged by curiosity, and a quest for understanding, and a better future for all of us. It's time to invest in graduate students and postdocs. They are from our families, our communities, and they are the future of research. Friends, science and research, they're not a club. It can't just be for a select few of us. Science is for everyone, for all of us. Let's make science better by inviting everyone into the classroom, the lab, the field, the president's office, the public service, and Parliament. I'll finish by speaking directly to early career researchers. I want you to know that we see you. I want you to know that we hear you, that we see your creativity, intelligence, and incredible potential. Dare to dream your greatest dream. If that means science or policy or something else entirely, chase that dream. And don't let anyone or anything get in your way. It's up to all of us to support you and to remind you that impossible is a dare. Friends, I cannot tell you how much it means to see you all tonight. I hope you know I hold you in my heart and in my thoughts, and you can reach out to me anytime. I wish I had better words to say thank you. Thank you for teaching me all these years. I'm enormously grateful. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour ce moment des plus inspirants, et surtout pour la relève. On pense à eux, on pense à elles, et à tout le travail qui reste à accomplir. And now, it's time for the Lifetime Achievement Award. C'est maintenant le temps de remettre le prix d'excellence pour l'ensemble des réalisations en politique scientifique. C'est le temps de parler du travail d'une vie au complet. C'est assez sérieux.
How can you possibly put a lifetime? Can you imagine a Lifetime Achievement Award? Truly, it's so this award, if anyone's wondering what it means to have a Lifetime Achievement Award, it recognizes an individual who has made significant contributions to science and innovation policy and who throughout their career has championed and inspired the science and innovation policy community in Canada.
Et pour remettre ce prix, pour présenter ce prix, j'invite la présidente du conseil d'administration du CPSC, Janet Halliwell, à partager avec nous quelques détails sur cette catégorie de prix et à annoncer le lauréat. Merci beaucoup, Madame Halliwell. Merci.
Krista, you are an inspiration. So colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, members of the science, technology, innovation community, today is a momentous occasion for many reasons, but particularly right now as we gather to honor a distinguished individual whose lifetime of dedication and contributions have forever impacted the fields of medicine, science, and research. We've come together to present the CSPC Lifetime Achievement Award to a remarkable figure whose outstanding legacy serves as a testament to the power of unwavering commitment and relentless pursuit of knowledge. This award acknowledges a lifetime of dedication to the betterment of humanity through his medical, scientific, and policy endeavors. Our recipient today, Dr. Henry Friesen, is a true luminary in the world of medical research and endocrinology. With a career spanning several decades, Dr. Friesen's pioneering work has significantly impacted the field of hormones and their effects on health. As a researcher, educator, and leader, he's made groundbreaking discoveries that continue to shape our understanding of endocrinology, but did not stop there, moving on to lead a transformation in how we nurture and how we support health research. Henry has been selected to be the recipient of this award as a result of his contributions and leadership over his exceptional career, and as a result of his transformative impact on health research in Canada. And I was able to share just a few months of that transformation with Henry. Beyond his stellar research career in endocrinology is his selfless dedication to effecting a paradigm shift in our thinking of medical research from disease to health. Fundamental difference. He triggered a broader vision of the types of research critical to improving human health and health system effectiveness. It was under his visionary and tenacious, and I mean tenacious, leadership that the Canadian Institutes for Health Research was created, a novel funding structure embracing and integrating biomedical, clinical, health services, population health research, the human dimensions, as well as the biological. He has been the author of profound changes in the policies and management of health research in this country, building new institutions, including his instrumental role in establishing Genome Canada, forging new partnerships, setting the conditions for deeper and more meaningful collaboration of academia and research users. Henry, you are an inspiration to us all. Throughout his illustrious career, Dr. Friesen's work has been recognized with numerous awards and honors. Of course, we think CSPC is a particularly special one. He is a Fellow of the Royal Society of Canada and a Companion of the Order of Canada, among many other accolades. It is with immense pleasure that I invite Henry to join us on stage to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award. So, Henry, this award So, Henry, this award is a symbol of our profound appreciation for the lasting impact you have had on medicine, science, and the well-being of countless individuals. And those individuals particularly benefited from your leadership, the transformation from disease to health in our thinking. Henry.
Thank you.
Need to stay with you.
No, I'm fine. Before I begin my remarks, I must say to Kirsten Duncan, your deeply felt words moved us all. It showed us what courage you have and what resolve you have to live life to the fullest. And I think this group here wishes you well on your journey. And I am deeply grateful to the CSPC for honoring me with this award. It's so meaningful, so very special. I really am truly humbled. In accepting this award, I do so fully aware that so many colleagues, co-workers, students, government officials, ministers provided invaluable advice and support at different times throughout my career. And my heartfelt gratitude is extended to them all. Tonight, two perspectives inform my reflections. The first, and I've characterized it as two bookends. The first, it was penned by Tennyson, who had Ulysses say, "I am a part of all that I have met, yet all experience is like an arch, through which gleams that untraveled world, whose margins fade forever and forever," a bit like a kaleidoscope with each movement. And that was a constantly changing world that I traveled, beginning with the time when I graduated from medicine in 1958, a 65-year journey on uncharted vistas. And the second perspective is that of the wise philosopher Kierkegaard, who noted that life can really only be understood backwards, but truly is lived forwards. And tonight I want to look backwards somewhat, but tell you that the life forward is going to be even more exciting. And I look backwards, I recognize that key pivotal moments, life-changing experiences, altered that ever-changing landscape. And in the first phase of my talk, I want to talk about my untraveled world that began in endocrinology, a chosen field. I had imagined when I entered medicine I might be a family doctor, much in need today, but there is still need for endocrinologists as well. I moved to Boston to engage in my initial studies. It was a simpler world, simpler time. Imagine, not a single hormone could be measured in blood at that time. Clinical diagnosis depended on careful observation and deductive reasoning, but it was in early, mid-1950s that Burson and Yallow at the Bronx VA hospital developed a new technique, a radioimmunoassay that allowed the measurement of small amounts of hormones in small blood samples, and that forever changed the landscape of endocrinology. And I was part of that early excitement. We learned about new hormones. In the lab that I trained, growth hormone, human growth hormone, had just been shown to actually be effective in stimulating growth in children who were short. And so when I moved to McGill to take up my first faculty position, I continued my studies on the pituitary and had the great joy and good fortune to discover the hormone human prolactin, a hormone that the experts thought doesn't exist. It's not possible, but it really was. It was there. And with the development of a radioimmunoassay, we very quickly defined the change in the role of prolactin in health and disease. Discovered that in these samples, that many of which were sent from all over the world, that we could define the small changes. If the normal level in women, men is in the neighborhood of 20, we saw these levels in some women at 100, 300, 1,000, 10,000, and inevitably when the prolactin levels rose, the women were infertile. In fact, 20% of women who were infertile had elevated levels of prolactin. And as good luck would have it, surprisingly, almost at the same time, we, working with a pharmaceutical company, discovered that a dopamine agonist would shut off this excess secretion. Prolactin levels would return to normal, and the woman cycle would begin and if pregnancy was desired would inevitably occur within 6 months. An example of the collaborative effort that took place was when I was called over to my office one day to be introduced to 5 Alitalia flight attendants who came over with 300 or 400 samples of blood carefully collected by Professor Carenza at Rome University with a request letter, would I please measure prolactin in these samples, and which we were able to do in short order. And from that emerged a friendship and a collaboration that lasted many, many decades. And immediately we were able to define the prolactin changes that occur during pregnancy. And so the fog and mystery of the untraveled world of prolactin came into focus. What was previously terra incognito was now translated into the scientific basis of clinical practice. And I'm pleased to say that 50 years later, more or less, the guidelines that we wrote way back then still operate today. Unfortunately, time doesn't permit me to chronicle all the many rewarding experiences I encountered and enjoyed at the University of Manitoba while I was there some 20 years. With perhaps one exception, I had a small advisory role to play in the siting of the high-level containment facility, the National Microbiology Laboratory, which had been decided should be located in Winnipeg. And I could see across from my office this asphalt mixing plant, the city mixing plant. I drove by one day and with my fellow commissioners who had been asked by the Honorable Jake Epp to give him advice on the site, we readily agreed this would be ideal because it was in juxtaposition to the Health Sciences Center. And the mayor, upon meeting with us, received our advice because we had advised him it would be the right thing to do for the city to donate the land to the federal government. Doesn't happen often that way. But he did, and that's the site of the National Microbiology Lab, which was the first to, with Mark O'Mara in BC, decode the first SARS virus, and the first Ebola vaccine, which actually was flown to Liberia and given at the last minute at death's doorstep to a doctor, and you may have seen his picture on the national news in the U.S. within hours of receiving the ESMAD vaccine, the antibodies. He recovered fully and was able to fly back and walk when he got off the airplane. Amazing story. First important step. I move now to my discussion on my role in helping facilitate the creation of CIHR. It really began when I was appointed in 91 as president of the Medical Research Council. And the first major step I undertook was to engage in a national consultation, the strategic planning process, which ultimately yielded a strategic plan carefully written with elegant prose by the late Professor Michael Bliss. And the first priority identified in this plan was the MRC will embrace the full spectrum of health research, an early harbinger of the changes to come in the untraveled world leading to CIHR. And so we were beginning to implement some of the projected changes and plans when there was an election held in '93 and the Chrétien government gained a majority. And soon after taking office, recognizing the desperate financial situation of Canada, Minister of Finance said, we're going to attack this deficit come hell or high water. And major reductions of all programs across government were imposed, including of the 3 granting councils. over a three-year period. This was a very difficult adjustment for all of us. But finally in '97, there was a promising signal that the belt-tightening phase perhaps was over, with an investment of $800 million in the newly created entity called Canada Foundation for Innovation. I was part of that deliberative group that outlined some of its programs, but the final budget reductions in the third year were still in place, and we were really facing a decision by the council whether to cancel whole programs that were supporting young people. It was a desperate time. I felt that it was important for me to try and speak to Mr. Martin directly to advise him of the serious effects the budget reductions had on health and medical research in Canada. It was a crisis. How would I reach Mr. Martin? It turned out that sometimes you know certain people, and the one person I knew was Dr. David Mulder, who you may have seen in the news just in the last week or two is retired now as the physician to the Montreal Canadiens. And he was able to contact Mr. Martin and arrange for a group of us to go and see him on a snowy Saturday afternoon in his apartment in Montreal. We arrived. We could hear we could see that he was Mr. Martin was in the process of picking up china. He just met with a delegation, and as he carried the cups, saucers, could hear the crashing of some china. And Mrs. Martin said, "Paul, that's not my favorite set, is it?" And he said, "I'm afraid so, dear." So when he came back, he was not in the best of moods, and started off by simply saying, "Doctor, you're not here to ask for more money, are you?" And I said, "Sir, I'm here in the national interest. I think it's important for you to know the harm that is taking place, the concerns that we have, and the council will have to cancel whole programs. And I really did want you to know that firsthand." And after a bit of back and forth, he said, "Well, you send me a 1 or 2 pager in the next 48 hours, and I'll have a look at it." But the coordinated effort by the research community continued. So early in mid-January, ahead of the budget, I got a call from Mr. Martin. Say, "Doctor, would you please call off your troops? I can't go through a bathroom or an airport without somebody buttonholing me and asking me to give more money for medical research." And I said, "Well, I can only apologize for any inconvenience, Minister, but I know our community is passionate, and I know you are too." And in the 1998 budget speech, Mr. Martin announced the cancellation of all the cuts to all the councils. And it was in that exact period, it seemed to me I'd been thinking a great deal about the difficulties faced by the council and its funding, that there was a great moment of celebration and joy and jubilation in the council because the pressure was off, it seemed. We finally had reached some stability. And here I was proposing a bold new idea that MRC should transform itself into a much broader base. We should see MRC not as a narrow Ottawa-based agency that delivers grants to people after peer review, but really see it for what it really is. Canada's most treasured social program is its health system. Where is the research foundation that underpins it and supports it and drives the innovation to the health system? I argued at some points that perhaps some of the difficulties the Canadian health system faces is its poorly underfunded research base. If you were running, as is the case today, a $130 billion program, your board of directors would be asking every meeting, how's our research pipeline? What's new? What's going to bail us out? What's the next great prospect? And in many cases, when I was started, deputy ministers of health never even had the subject of health research on the agenda. Can you imagine? And with those thoughts in mind, I had the great good fortune at the time to have a wonderful Minister of Health in Alan Rock, a very supportive, not always fully embraced counsel, but a very supportive counsel. So I took the opportunity to, at our council meeting in March, this was after cuts had been restored, to brief the minister in the presence of, there you can see Willie Keon, to explain to him that we believe that 1% of the healthcare costs should be devoted to research. Only 1%. You know about all the controversy about 2% defense spending. Well, what greater defense is there for the Canadians who are dying in large numbers than at least spend 1% of the health budget on research? He listened carefully and turned to me, and I hadn't briefed him ahead of time, which is a bit unfair. How much is this going to cost, Henry? Well, I said, sir, it'll be an extra $500 million because our budget's 250, and an extra 5 would take us up to 1%. He thought carefully, and he said, well, Henry, why don't you work hard to try and get it? And he got up and he said that more or less. And this depicts simply the difference of seeing the MRC as a narrowly based agency in Ottawa, sending out some money to isolated, separate places, instead of seeing a health research enterprise that's integral to the health system and integrated into it, driving innovation, supporting it, ensuring that its continuation is at its highest level. And so then we interviewed Joan Bryden of the Ottawa Citizen, and to my horror, the next week on the front page, July 2nd, was this wonderful title, headline, Rockey's $500 million plan to boost medical research. Well, that got my minister's attention, but even more significantly, it got Eddie Goldenberg's attention. And he called me and he said, I think we should have lunch, Henry. And so we went and had lunch, and he said, tell me about this initiative. What is this all about? And the real dividend was not the intervention of Eddie, but was the friendship that began at that time. And throughout my career in Ottawa, there was no one more supportive of many of the things we tried to do than Eddie Goldenberg. And so we continued across the country to explain to any audience that would listen about the purpose and the concept and the value of investing properly in health research. And by October, there was growing even a fragile consensus that the idea had a good deal of merit. And we continued to have discussions with finance and others. And in the budget of 1999, Minister of Finance announced the intention of government to create an interim governing council to develop the greater proposals in detail. And Eric Meldoff and Dorothy Lamont were my vice chairs, and task for an interim governing council was created with executive director, and they worked very hard, and essentially they wrote the bill that became Bill C-13, which received royal assent in April. The bill really stressed that the transformative change that spoken about earlier, that MRC should move beyond biomedical research. It should really embrace the full spectrum, basic discovery research, of course, clinical research, health services research, and recognize that the social determinants of health are powerful and important and impact health in so many different ways. And the newly transformed CIHR, the newly created CIHR, should embrace all of that. And Alan Bernstein was appointed as its first president. He very efficiently created the programs that had been specified by or suggested by the Interim Governing Council, and with 13 institutes, each of them led by an outstanding individual who had expertise in the field. And here you can see the dividend that accrued to MRC. The first 3 lines, you can see MRC is in the middle. It's half of NSERC's budget, and then gradually with the introduction of CIHR, both are just over $1 billion. So the net dividend over the last number of years is between $4 and $5 billion accrued to the health research community. The last major topic I'll address is the creation of Genome Canada. While many areas of science were advancing, perhaps none more so than genomics. Canada had a proud record of achievement in genetics, but really was at the margins, looking in at genomics. And many of us spoke to Kevin Lynch, who was the Deputy Minister of Industry Canada, and he in turn recognized its importance and appointed a task force led by Martin Godbout, who became ultimately the first president. The memorandum to cabinet was written by Christine Nymark. And in the pre-budget period, Alex McKenzie and I approached Scott Clark, at the Deputy Minister, who was the Deputy Minister of Finance, to make the case for the importance of funding genomics. As we entered the office area, I was somewhat taken aback when he shouted rather loudly, "Lock the vaults, Friesen is coming." And then we proceeded to make our case. And in the 2000 budget, Genome Canada was created with the support of $160 million. A phone call informed Marc Lepage, who was Vice President, that the check was not only in the mail, it was in Industry Canada's office. Would he come up and fetch it? And he rushed up there on Friday afternoon, waiting for the secretaries to get their petty cash, and then signed off for the $160 million check and ran down Spark Street Mall to make sure it got into the pouch at the Royal Bank so it would gather interest for the weekend. And under Martin Godbout's leadership as president, 6 regional genome centers were created, and the charge, the mandate to Genome Canada was that Canada should be a world leader, not just a bit player, a world leader broadly in health, environment, agricultural, forestry, fisheries, as well as to address ethical legal issues. The response was extraordinary. We had over $1.5 billion of requests for proposals. What to do? Well, we knew the familiar track. We went to see the deputy minister, and he in turn agreed we should see Eddie Goldenberg. And I went over with Martin Godbout to make our case. Eddie had regrettably and sadly had fractured his leg a few months earlier, and he was still on crutches. And as a physician, the first thing I asked was, "How's your leg doing, Eddie?" And he kind of said, "Well, you have a look." And he rolled down a sock, and I palpated the area, and it was pain-free. And I said, "I think you're going to ski by the end of the season." And he was so delighted with that. But he said, "Now, what are we going to talk about?" And he said, "You know, I don't write checks. And I said, I'm fully aware of that, but I know very well that you influence people who do write checks. And the next check arrived, $140 million. So Genome Canada in the first 2 years was started with $300 million, and overall, by now, they've invested over $4 billion in genomics in this country. Just think of it. The cost of decoding the human genome was $3 billion. Took 8 years. Today, you could do it in a few days. Cost less than $1,000. And as my travelogue comes to an end, I wish to acknowledge with a profound sense of gratitude and wonderment the rewarding, exhilarating adventures I've experienced in my journey through the untraveled world that lay ahead of me in '58. I agree with the words of Ulysses. I am a part of all that I have met. And in case you haven't seen a check for $140 million, here it is. But I really do want to conclude by saying that I lived through the golden era of research funding, thanks to the Chrétien government. Imagine, all of these programs were new and initiated. They have profoundly affected the science base in this country and the ability of Canadians to compete. It's quite extraordinary. And what made it possible? Well, Mr. Chrétien once said, Canada is not a superpower, but it strives for excellence. And the one area they can strive for excellence is in research. And we must, and we should. And that was part of the motivating force for his decision to create these wonderful programs. And I might add, all of them continue and continue to be funded. So they've built a solid foundation. They've built well. I thank so many of the people who have given me their loyalty and their support. I can't mention them all, but I do want to mention my wife, who's been unfailing in her support and my family and all that I've tried to do. And I conclude, as I often did when I traveled, with the words of Sir Francis Drake, written in 1577. Disturb us, Lord, when we are too well pleased with ourselves, when our dreams have come true because we dreamed too little, when we arrived safely because we sailed too close to the shore. Disturb us, Lord, to dare more boldly when losing sight of land. That's really when we see the stars. I urge all of you to look for the stars.